glad you're here on this live. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about sinking a boat. Well, it didn't really sink, and what happened was is that I decided that I wanted to go fishing over the weekend, and beautiful day. I researched everything. I went out, bought the bait, bought the gas, bought the ice, loaded the boat, and I was talking to my fiance, and she went online to get her fishing license and couldn't do that, so she couldn't go, and that caused a rift in the relationship. Well, we can talk about that later. But the idea was that I have the boat and it's on a lift, so all I have to do is just drop it in the water and turn on the engine and back it out and then go down to the intercoastal. So everything was going great, loved it. The boat was loaded, everything was happening. I had to slow down periodically because of manatees in the river. And every once in a while I would stop and just fool around with the depth finder and the fish finder to see if there was any fish in that area. And I noticed that there was water coming in. But, water comes in boats because it splashes over the top. Water in boats, it happens. So you just don't worry about it. Well, what happened was is that I took the ride out to the intercoastal, and I was sitting there, and I had, I was drifting, and it was okay. Let me get the Grumman up and the fish finder and mark the spots so I can find out where to really catch a lot of fish. And I'm working on it, and it's not coming together. And so I'm working on it and it's not coming together. And I'm turning it on, I'm turning it off, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I noticed that there's a little bit of water coming in. And I was thinking, okay, water in the boat. Boats get water, it comes over the side, it's not a big deal. Water in boats, it happens all the time. So continue to work on the distraction of fish finding and the depth finder, and sure enough, after a period of time, I look up and stuff is starting to float in the bottom of the boat that shouldn't be floating and shouldn't be getting wet. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, I might need to check. So I turn around and I look at the most important part, which is the rear end of the boat, because that's where the most holes are. And I'm looking down there and I'm going, well, I can't see anything. Okay, so I can't see anything. So I go back to fishing, fooling with the fish finder and fooling with the depth finder. And, I notice a little bit later, my feet are getting wet. So that's not supposed to happen. So again, I go and I look around and I go back to the end of the boat and I notice that there is a stream of water now entering the boat. Well, that isn't supposed to happen because I've got plugs in the boat. I've got, this boat is tight. Well, sure enough, this particular boat happens to have a bait well. And in the bait well, what happens is it takes water from outside near the motor, pumps it through into the boat, into the live well, and then the live well has a valve that when it reaches a certain level, the water goes out. Very nice system, but it's very old, and it cracked and came off. So the motor was no longer sealing the hole. Sure enough, I had to plug that hole. Well, I knew that there were plugs in the boat. So I start taking going through the boat, searching through the boat, finding the plugs. Sure enough, I find the plugs. The plugs are this round right here. And I need to plug this round. So if you guys know physics or math or displacement or anything like that, this won't fit in a hole this long, this big. So what happened is water's still coming in, and I'm got to make a decision. Is there anything in the boat that I can find that will plug that hole? So I started to look for a tampon, because tampons are about that big, fit in that hole. It would suck all the water out of the bay, and I'd be able to get home. And I'd be able to sit there with my Grumman, with my fish, with my bait, and I'd be able to stay there and do some fishing and relaxing. But oh no, there were other plans from a higher source. As the other stuff that I'd just taken out in order to search for the plug started to float, I realized that, hey, I've got choices, because it's now getting to the point where the battery would be covered in water. And that means that the boat and the motor would not start. So that, is kind of concerning. So what happens is that I realize that I don't have any implements to be able to patch, plug, or stop the water from coming into the boat. Well, at that point, I have to make a decision. Now, realize I'm in the boat by myself, and I'm just going down a checklist trying to figure out what to do. But, what was the cause of the biggest problem? I was distracted. And, you kind of wonder about that. So anyhow, what happened was is that I got the motor started, got the boat moving, and as the boat moves, the way the boat is designed, water will start flowing out, and all I need to do is just keep the debris from that hole, and allow the water to go out. Well, obviously I made it back, but it's kind of like this. What happens in your life when your boat's sinking? When there's a crisis, when it's life and death, because it could have been life and death. I mean, if I continued to fool around and not take notice of my surroundings, it would have been a very bad day. There are people out here that mentally shut down. They emotionally shut down. There's people out here that what they do is they want to take care of the other people, or they just go around and shuffle the deck chairs, or move the cushions, or get on their cell phone and start talking to their friend. They're not taking action. What I'm asking you to do is comment. What do you do in a crisis? Do you sit down and drink, or do you actually go for a cure? Well, part of what I do is I look for learning messages. I look for learning lessons, and I look for messages. And part of it is that I was not paying attention to my surroundings. I did it 3 or 4 different times, but I ignored what the obvious was. And, the other thing is that, did I freak out? No, but, here's the one thing. Was there a message that my fiance didn't get to go, but I did, and she would not have been happy, and things would have completely gone in a different direction if she'd have been in the boat. So what we want to learn or think about is, holistically, what was going on? I was part of the problem. I wasn't paying attention. The boat was part of the problem. Did I set up for failure? There's all kinds of that stuff going on. But realize that we need to be looking for the learning lessons. We need to be working towards the cures. And go ahead, tell me in your comments, what you did or do when your boat's actually sinking. And I am going to be doing a live tomorrow. That happens to be, let's see, the 9th of December at 3:15 p.m. on Life Coaching Today. And I'm going to be talking about men's health. I'm going to be spending time with Max and Jetta Jones. And we're also going to be throwing in some sprinkles about erectile dysfunction. I look forward to talking to you. You have a great day.